So in today's video, we are going to talk about how to attract your ideal client for your law firm through your YouTube channel. And this idea of attracting your ideal client is incredibly important because in 2024, if you are talking to everyone on your YouTube channel, you are truly talking to no one. And so it's incredibly important to think about a specific ideal client that you really want to target. And with so much noise presents a huge opportunity for you to come in and be specific about your YouTube content. And just to highlight to you how big of an opportunity creating video content is, I just heard the statistic recently. Currently, the creator economy is around $250 billion, right? And that number is actually going to roughly double by the year of 2027. So it's projected, Goldman Sachs says it's projected to grow to $480 billion. So this really just shows you where people's attention and people's eyeballs are going. It really helps you understand like how big of an opportunity this is today, but also in the years to come. But the real question is, of that 250 billion, how does my law firm get like a piece of that, right? Like how do I plug in? I understand and I see that that model of creating video content has worked for a lot of law firms, has worked for a lot of other businesses, but how can that work for me? So in today's video, we are gonna address that. We're gonna talk about niching, and then we're going to talk about questions that you can ask yourself to really identify who your ideal client is. And then the third bonus, we're going to talk about what are easy ways that you can come up with your first list of video topics. So niching, it is incredibly important to have. I'm just going to come out and say it. In my opinion, it is incredibly important to have a niche when you are creating online content, right? We talked about that a little bit in the beginning, that, you know, if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. But the thing that a lot of people freak out about with niching is, okay, if I just focus on this particular niche, then that means like my law firm can't serve these other people, and it's gonna limit me. But here's the thing, when you are able to create content for your particular ideal client, that is going to make you magnetic. Like they're gonna be able to look at your videos and think, oh my gosh, like this person really understands the complexity that I'm navigating. And so it's super, super important for you to be like dialed in to that particular niche. Now, something else I wanna offer you is, just because your content is focused on a particular niche for your YouTube channel, doesn't mean that you only focus on that niche for your entire law firm. I have a client who is an estate planning attorney. Her niche and a lot of the stuff that we talk about on her YouTube channel is related to special needs estate planning. However, a large amount of her practice is actually traditional estate planning, but she felt like this is a specialty that I have and like a really gap in the marketplace. And that strategy alone continues to just pay dividends in her law firm. She's continually seeing 15 to 20% of her law firm's closed business directly coming from her YouTube channel. Why? Because there's several reasons, but one of the first one was she's focused on attracting one particular type of client. She's not trying to get all estate planning clients across California. Like it's a very specific type of client that she's trying to attract. Why is focusing on one ideal client so important? Simply put, you are better at solving their specific problem and their specific pain. Let's talk about this estate planning, the special needs estate planning example. How a special needs family is going to craft and think about their estate plan is very different than a neurotypical family. And when you're able to speak to the complexity that that particular person is navigating, they're really able to connect with you more. You build rapport and credibility with them. So I'm gonna give you a quick story about something that happened just recently with me that about really thinking specifically about your ideal client. So my refrigerator light went out, and it's just caused all this chaos. It's dark. I, pull stuff out of the fridge. I can't see. Everything just topples over and yada, yada, yada. It was that way for months, and I finally was like, okay, we need to call a serviceman. So we call an appliance serviceman to come out, and we'll just say his name is Gary. And so he comes out, really nice guy. And so he starts to look at all of, my fridge and assess the situation. And then he comes back and talks to me. And so what he does in his assessment of the problem is he is communicating to me all of the technical things that are going on with the fridge. He starts to talk about the LED panels, and he starts to talk about the circuit boards, and he starts to talk about all of these other lights, and it could be this and it could be that. And I mean, bottom line, within a couple of minutes, I was like glazed over, overwhelmed, and like quite frankly a little irritated, because then he came and started to say, oh, well, you know, you could actually like cost out other refrigerators and you could do this. And I thought, wait a second, I'm hiring you to help me, and then now you're reverse delegating, you're giving me a bunch of work to figure all this out. And so I just left our conversation frustrated and confused, because he did not drive me to a solution. Okay, this is what I think you should do. You could do this or this. Like, it was just like there was no container, and that really helps me. There was literally kids running around the house. I've got 2 little kids. And so that is how Gary decided to help me solve my problem. Now, I will say, if Gary would have solved the problem that way for my husband, who is a hardware engineer, Kent, my husband would have loved that, because he would have thought, wow, Gary's like really knows his stuff, like he's super technical, and like that back and forth and him going through all of the technical aspects of what's going on with our fridge would have really built credibility with Ken, right? So Ken and me have the same issue. Both of our fridge light is out. The way that Gary solved that problem for me hurt credibility, right? Because I'm not a technical person and I just want a solution. Ken, on the other hand, it built credibility. And so I just share this story to share. I mean, I know it's like kind of a silly example, but it's really just made me think, wow, like specificity when we're talking to our ideal client is super important, because we're able to put ourselves in their shoes. And I want you to really think about your law firm and think about how this relates to you. So if you're a divorce attorney and perhaps you deal with like really complex custody battles and complex like financial matters within divorce, the way that you're gonna talk about divorce is very different than another attorney who deals with mostly amicable divorces. And so it's super, super important to think about like, who is my niche? Who am I serving? What do they care about? Super, super important. So let's talk a little bit about how to identify a little bit deeper who this ideal client is for you. One of the exercises that I go through with my clients is I ask them, if you were to copy and paste 10 or maybe even 5 additional clients that were just like this particular client, who would they be? Right? Like this is somebody that you love to work with. Maybe you've worked with them in the past, maybe you're working with them now. Think about that particular person and who they are. How old are they? What responsibilities do they have, right? Are they the breadwinner? Do they own a business? What are the things that keep them up at night? Right? What are the things that they actually care about? What does support look like for this particular client? Because some people, they want a lot of support. They want you to be super involved. Other people don't want you calling them. So what does that look like for your ideal client? What problem does this client need to solve? What needs to be true about your services for this type of client to want to work with you? And in what ways, if any, can you relate with this client? Because a lot of times our ideal clients are actually like a piece of us, right? It might be something that you've had to overcome in your own life, and that's why you really like pouring in and like working with this particular client. I really encourage you to just take a few minutes and really like start to think about who answering these questions to identify like there is a particular person that you are meant to serve, and those questions can kind of help you identify that. So the best way to figure out what are the first videos that I should be shooting, it's actually super simple, is think about, now that you know your ideal client, what are the questions that this ideal client has asked you? Take a second and write all that down, all the questions. And then you can also have a pad of paper on your desk, and as you're talking to your ideal client throughout the week and you keep getting maybe a similar question, write that question down. You can also do it on a Google Doc. Just a really good way of capturing, okay, this is the content that my client is interested in, so let me just like write out these questions. So this exercise alone should generate 10 plus video ideas. The questions can be super basic, and ideally they're really raw, like however your ideal client is asking you that particular question, I would write verbatim, like I would write those exact things down, and that can really start to give you a list of your first video topic ideas. So now you know the importance of attracting one ideal client to your YouTube channel for your law firm to attract leads. Make sure you watch this video right here where I go over additional ways that you can generate endless topic ideas for your YouTube channel.